Shabbat Shalom, greetings to you all. Well, it's good to be back, although I'm not actually back. I will be doing some work on the West Coast for a few weeks, but it still is nice to be in one place. And I hope you all had a great Hanukkah. The Festival of Light, and of course, next week its twin will be held, and perhaps that's another case of the younger superseding the firstborn. Well, friends, we've had a pretty amazing time, and we have a pretty amazing week coming up. We do have a fantastic Torah Parsha, one of the most poignant of all. And while we're getting ready for Christmas, we are in a solstice week, the darkest day of the year, and of course, the new Star Wars movie opens, and I am sure the Force will be very strong with that one. Now, during Rosh Hashanah, we talked about the 4 New Years that our sages make mention of, and I suggested that the solstices and equinoxes were those 4 key dates. And we talked about what some of them meant. This, of course, is Tekufat Tevet, the winter solstice. Now, though the rabbinic calendar was largely lunar, the rabbis did indeed prefer that the winter solstice of Tevet fell in Tevet, and the summer solstice of Tammuz fell in Tammuz. Now, this was one of the reasons for the elaborate system of long and short months and leap months, which balanced the lunar calendar with the solar year. Now, as a reminder of the legends of the seasons which we talked about before, the spring equinox represents the triumph of life. The summer solstice is about loss and abundance. The autumn equinox was the link between earth and heaven. And the winter solstice is all about the search for light. Now, we, of course, are celebrating the winter solstice, and it has many auspicious references. In Jubilee 7, in the days of Noah, the winter solstice is the day that the peaks of the mountains become visible after the floodwaters recede. In the Babylonian Talmud, in Avodah Zarah 8a, Adam and Eve become frightened as the winter solstice approaches, thinking that the shortening of the days is a punishment. Interestingly, they fast for 8 days. And on the winter solstice, when the light grows, they celebrate for 8 days. And there is really only one other 8-day festival, funnily enough, around the same time, and one we just finished, Hanukkah. And in the Machzor Vitri, a book of history of Halakha and liturgy, the winter solstice is the day that Jephthah, a chieftain of Israel, sacrificed his daughter in fulfillment of a foolish battle vow. Otzar Midrashim tells us that on the winter solstice, Leviathan, a playmate of God and a wise teacher of man, protects the creatures of the sea from their predators. On every winter solstice, he lifts his head and makes himself great, and blows in the water and churns the sea, and makes all the fish in the ocean afraid. His eyes, according to the Talmud, flash in the deep. Well, that'd be pretty cool to see. Now, it would appear that the winter solstice seems to have to do with sight, or the lack thereof. Mountains become visible to Noah. The patterns of nature become visible to Adam and Eve. Leviathan is associated with inner sight, and Jephthah, on the other hand, is blind to his own wrongdoings. On the winter solstice, the sun's light begins to become stronger. And we, too, consider how to strengthen our vision. Now, for those of you who love to celebrate the changes in seasons, and we talked about how that is a great way to personalize your own spiritual observances, here's a prayer for marking the changes in seasons. And it's a blessing which can be recited over a cup of wine on the day of the equinox or solstice. And this prayer also may be recited along with a blessing over a scent related to the season. You know, for example, flowers for spring, fruit for summer, leaves for fall, and pine boughs for winter. And it's based on several different texts, which, I've incorporated together. Now, the Havdalah ceremony, which divides Shabbat from the weekday, is great for incorporating our senses. And we did it at Rosh Hashanah. And prayer should be a sensual experience, my friends. The blessing over equinox and solstice is found in the Babylonian Talmud, in Berachot 59b, that you have the traditional evening prayer, marking a transition between day and night, and the Torah text, in which the Holy One promises Noah that the seasons will continue as long as the earth endures, and you'll find that in Genesis 8:22. There's also the blessing over the abundance of years found in the daily Amida prayer, and that's recited to honor the Shekhinah, the imminent divine presence. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pri hagafen. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, who guides the world, creator of the fruit of the vine. But I should have had a drink to toast. Baruch at Shekhinah, Eloheinu ruach haolam, boreit isvei atzei v'semim. Blessed are you, Shekhinah, our divinity who embodies the world, who creates fragrant plants and grasses. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, who guides the world, who makes creation, whose wisdom changes the times and turns the seasons. As long as the days of the earth endure, planting and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night shall not cease. Blessed are you, divine presence, who blesses the years. And remember, friends, Judaism and all its prayers is based on intentions. And so we have to think about our intentions for the seasonal transitions. In this case, kavanot l'tekufot. For the winter solstice, we are grateful before you, Eternal One, for you have brought us from darkness to light. And this can be found in Midrash Bereshit 68:11. And intentions are very much what we will see in this week's Parsha. We are winding down the Joseph Chronicles, which means we're also winding down the book of Genesis. And this is the second last Parsha of Genesis, the only biblical book which can stand on its own as a book to read. Vayigash, and he went over. Well, this is another Parsha whose title really has nothing to do with its content. The pretending is over. This is the great reveal. Oh, yes, I'm the great pretender, adrift in a world of my own. I play the game, but to my real shame, you've left me to dream all alone. The Platters, and a real great description of Joseph. Now, this Parsha contains the great revelation of Joseph to his brothers, the effects of the drought years, and the descent of Jacob's entire family down from Canaan to Egypt, and perhaps, while the solstice represents the return of light, this story may represent the descent of darkness, as this begins the segue into the 400 years of confinement and degradation. And remember what the brothers said about the stolen silver goblet in Genesis 44:9. He of your servants with whom it to be found shall die, and what's more, we shall become slaves to our Lord. Was this but another foreshadowing? Could have been. Well, the highlight of this Parsha, my friends, is Genesis 45:1, the great reveal. One of the most powerful scenes in the Torah. No magic, no majesty, no miracle. Velo yachal Yosef, l'chitapek lechol, hanitzavim alav, vayikra chotzi, ucholish, me'alei velo amadish, ito, behit vada Yosef el echav, vayeten, et kolo bevechei, vayishmeu Mitzrayim, vayishma beit Paro. And Joseph was not able to restrain himself in front of everyone who was standing by him, and he called, "Take everyone out from my presence." And not a man stood with him when Joseph made himself known to his brothers. And he wept out loud, and Egypt heard, and Pharaoh's house heard. This was the third of 3 times he wept. And this was no simple weep. This must have been some lament to be heard everywhere. He no longer turns aside to weep in secret, but sobs uncontrollably in the presence of his brothers, so audibly that he's heard by the Egyptians outside and heard all the way to the palace of Pharaoh. He then says, "I am Joseph. Ani Yosef." A 2-word, 3 in English bombshell, a sentence that has such meaning in those 3 little words and registers immediately. It reminds me of another 3-word sentence that registers. I am he, as you are he, as you are me, and we are all together. I am Joseph, your brother, whom you sold into Egypt. And now, do not be pained and do not be incensed with yourselves that you sold me down here, because for sustenance, God has sent me before you. God has sent me before you to make you a remnant on earth and to preserve life, for you to be a great surviving group. And so, it is not you who sent me here, but God. Look at how he has grown. He's not interested in vengeance. No, not this one. As Yoda said, a Jedi uses the Force for knowledge and defense, never for attack. Joseph has become quite the Jedi Master. And then one of the truly most enigmatic and perhaps glossed over sentences in the Torah, Genesis 45:8. It is not you who sent me here, but God, and he has made me father to Pharaoh. This speaks of the history and the role Joseph may have played in Egyptian royalty. A fascinating topic, but too complex for discussion here. And then another defining moment takes place, an incredibly powerful choice. Genesis 46:2. And God said to Israel in night visions, and he said, Jacob, Jacob. And he said, I am here. The message that tells us it is a defining moment. And interestingly, night visions are, of course, dreams. And notice that both names are used. God said to Israel, the changed, striving for better man who has fought with God, and says to him, Jacob, Jacob, using the old name, both in the same sentence. The name he addressed earlier in the defining moment of Jacob's life, except here it is different. Here is the second of 3 times that God is giving a very special message, a different message. The first was when he called Abraham, Abraham, and was telling Abraham not to be afraid. Isaac's life would be saved. Here it is to assure Jacob, the man of fear, that he need not be afraid to go down to Egypt. Fear not to go down to Egypt. And the third time will be at the burning bush when he tells Moses not to be afraid. So God says to him in Genesis 46:4, I shall go down with you to Egypt, and I shall also bring you up. We now know the time in Egypt is limited. God says he will bring them up out of Egypt. He just does not say when. And I hope you also continue noting the use of numbers. One should note that the whole Joseph story exhibits a fondness for playing with recurrent numbers. The fraternal 12, first signaled in Joseph's dream, then subtracted from by his disappearance, with the full sum made up at the end. The triple pairs of dreams, the 2 pairs of 7. 5, 1/2 the number of the brothers who enslaved Joseph, and Benjamin was given a 5-fold portion of food at Joseph's feast, and 5 changes of garments. And the Egyptians were obliged to pay a tax of 1/5 of their harvest. Also notice the bitterness which Jacob holds on to the very end, my friends. Jacob's gloomy summary of his own life echoes with a kind of complex solemnity against all that we have seen him undergo. He has achieved everything he aspired to achieve. The birthright, the blessing, the marriage with his beloved Rachel, progeny, wealth. But there was a moral realism unexpected. Although he gets everything he wanted, it is not the way he would have wanted. And the consequence is far more pain than contentment. From his prenatal clashing with his twin in the womb, everything has been a struggle. He displaces Esau, but only at the price of fear and lingering guilt and long exile. He gets Rachel, but only by having Leah imposed on him, with all the domestic strife that entails. And he loses Rachel early in childbirth. He's given a new name by his divine adversary, but comes away with a permanent wound. He gets the full solar year number of 12 sons, but there is enmity among them, for which he bears a lot of the responsibility, and he spends 22 years continually grieving over his favorite son, who he believes is dead. This is, in sum, a story with a happy ending that withholds any simple feeling of happiness at the end. He is truly a sad individual. In fact, he's a real nowhere man, sitting in his nowhere land, making all his nowhere plans for nobody. The world is sacred, my friends. And so is everything in it. Express your gratitude, light a candle, make a wish. Celebrate your life and the lives of those you love. Share your feelings with them. Live free, be free. Honor your freedom. Be well. Be happy. Be blessed. Share and honor the light, and all who live in the light continue to shine. Continue to send everyone you know goodwill and love. Works. Pray for peace and freedom for everyone. And hit the terror and hatred. Remember, friends, we are a community. We learn together. We celebrate each other. We love each other. We share this ride together, men and women equally. Let us send out love, not fear. Send out peace, harmony, good healing to all who need it. And please do learn to forgive and learn to love. Follow the call of freedom. The journey is yours to enjoy. Should my heart not be humble, should my eyes fail to see, should my feet sometimes stumble, on the way, stay with me. That, of course, from the new Bob Dylan album, a 10-song tribute to Frank Sinatra. And it was from the great Frank Sinatra song, Stay With Me. Thank you all. Love you. See you all next time. And I do love seeing you all again. And remember, your wishes do come true. And forget not, fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering. Thank you, Yoda. Bless you all. Have a fantastic week. A fantastic solstice for you. A week of love and healing. Thanks and peace. Light is increasing in your life. So keep lighting the light of miracles. Keep dreaming, and thank you all for joining me. Shabbat Shalom. Take care. Bye.